Hello, good evening, everyone. So, I'm so pleased to be part of this panel with my distinguished speakers and eminent jurists over here. Thank you so much for joining us on this panel. So, we're all in the midst of this profound shift of AI, right? Be it contract management, regulatory compliance, litigation strategy, governance oversight, right? So AI is kind of rapidly changing our lives, especially the legal professionals' life, the way we work, the way we advise, and the kind of value we deliver, right? So as AI adoption accelerates, so does the challenges, right? So today we're going to discuss about, do we really have a regulatory landscape, or do we really need a regulatory landscape for use of AI in India? And how far have we reached today in terms of, accepting AI output as an evidence in the courts? Who is to be blamed, or who is to be accountable while we use AI, whether it's the tool or it's the vendor or the user, etc. So that's what we're going to discuss today. And with that, I would like to start off my first question to Mr. Amar over here. How do you see the regulatory landscape in India? Of course, we do not have a standalone AI law in India, right, with, in terms of regulating or governing the usage of AI. So I would like to ask you this question as to, do you really feel that there needs to be a law in place, or are we really good at what we are today?
Thank you. Thank you, Sushma. So let's go a little back and let's see how the development of artificial intelligence is happening, and how the development of artificial intelligence is projected both globally and India. And therefore, is there a need to have a regulatory framework, and what is happening across the globe? So a couple of these thoughts before we come to the real question whether India needs a dedicated and a separate AI legislation on it. So globally, it's a huge market that is developing on the artificial intelligence side. According to one of the report, the projection is that globally AI market would be to the tune of 1,800 billion US dollars by 2030. If you see the NASSCOM report, it's the latest report which has come in September 2024. It's an artificial intelligence 2.0 index, and it says that by 2027, the projected growth rate of artificial intelligence market in India is at a CAGR of 25 to 35% growth. The same report also talks about the growing talent pool in the artificial intelligence segment, and it says that it is growing at a rate of 15% CAGR by 2027. So that's a tremendous growth which is happening on the artificial intelligence. There are a lot of reports which will also suggest and demonstrate that there are a lot of industries who have incorporated artificial intelligence in their system, and they're saying that it has led to a sizable revenue increase, revenue enhancement. So what is happening today is that organizations are embedding artificial intelligence in their business. It is showing a very, very positive result. And going forward, this industry is going to grow big time. Now, these are the opportunities and the development piece. If you see the other side of it, there are a lot of lapses and a lot of gaps on the artificial intelligence. We all are aware of the digital arrest. We are all aware of deep fakes. So talking about the digital arrest, yesterday, the Bengal court prosecuted 9 accused who were indulging into almost 100 crores of digital arrest scam, 9 accused, and for the first time in India, the court have awarded them life imprisonment. Right? So that's the first life imprisonment happening on the digital arrest piece. There's a Bengal judgment which has just been, we read in the newspaper, it has come just 2 days back. So another very recent incident, and from the Karnataka, see the negative side of artificial intelligence. So the Chief Minister of Karnataka, and it's in the public domain, he was, his social media group from this Chief Minister office was publishing a condolence message for one of the prominent actress Shanta Devi, Shakuntala Devi, and they used this automated meta tool, which is called digitally, and it was a conversion from Kannada to English, and that conversion said, instead of translated it into bad language, and it says that late Shri Sitaramaya, so and CM was very, very furious about, and they talked through the meta and said that this needs to be corrected. So there are a lot of negative sides of artificial intelligence. There are number of court judgments which have warned. As recent as 18th of July, there's a Karnataka High Court judgment, which is ex-COP versus Union of India, where they have said that artificial intelligence should not be used in the judgment writing. There are a lot of UK judgments, the recent one being the National Qatar Bank, where the lawyers quoted some 45 judgments, out of which 18 judgments were fake citations and fakes. So there are a lot of negative sides of these artificial intelligence which are coming up. Now, all of these gaps poses a very pertinent question. Is there a need to regulate the uses of artificial intelligence? And if the answer is yes, the obvious answer is yes, is there a need to have a generic Artificial Intelligence Act, or the sectoral laws can be strengthened to make provisions for the sector-specific regulation of the artificial intelligence? Today, a couple of sectors which definitely needs a strong regulation is, one is the finance and banking, second is healthcare, manufacturing, agriculture. There are a lot of developments which are happening in the agriculture segment. These are some of the sectors which are using artificial intelligence in a large scale, and therefore all their specific laws does need amendments to incorporate the regulation of the artificial intelligence uses. If you look at the globe, European Union has come out with the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act in August 2024. They have recently come out with a code of practice, which was in April 2025. UK has not issued any specific dedicated artificial intelligence act. They are working on an artificial intelligence bill. Singapore has not issued a dedicated one. US has just issued an executive order in September 2023. But the world is trying to understand how these nuances are developing, what are the real challenges that the artificial intelligence are posing. And some of these challenges which they have identified, of course, we all know about the biases, the fundamental right violations. So these are some of the issues which will definitely crop up. In my opinion, considering the huge market that India offers, there is definitely a need to have a generic artificial intelligence legislation, which I'm sure METI is working upon it. At the same time, there is a need to have specific incorporation in the specific laws relating to sectors which should regulate on the uses of the artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Just to add on the things Amar has highlighted, if we go through the EU regulation 2020-24, it specifically talk about the legal domains. It talks about there will be a need of a human intervention in human resources related thing, or the legal compliances related matters, specifically that provide for the use or the guidelines. And on the same lines, the guidelines which is being provided by the Niti Aayog, it also talks about that in the legal fraternity, how it's had to be used in the legal domain, likewise a judgment we are using it. So it's provide for the use of the AI in those cases, but the human intervention, I think it's always being needed.
Yeah, so it's always better that we have a standalone AI law in place rather than, because right now what we have is a very fragmented regulatory ecosystem in India, right? What we look at now is your Information Technology Act and the new DPDP Act, of course, in terms of raising issues or understanding the challenges around data privacy and, of course, the algorithmic decision making, right? With that in place, now that we understand we do not have a proper regulatory landscape, I would like to ask you a question, Mehak. Can we actually rely on these, predictive analysis in the courtrooms and of course, even in our arbitration proceedings as evidence. How do you see that?
So I think we can, and I don't think we have an option as to not go that way eventually. But I do think it has to be exercised with a lot of caution. I was reading the other day that I think US, in terms of all others, has possibly been a little ahead of the curve in terms of their requirement for judges to be able to distinguish between acknowledged AI evidence, which is labeled, versus deceptive deep fakes, or the fact that their federal courts have come out with rules already, and that they're going to, if you don't have a human-backed expert to validate the AI output, then it's not going to be considered. So I think we're getting there in terms of evidence, but I also feel that because there is right now no such overarching guideline for people to tread that path, they are, I think, doing it in their own way. So, one of the examples was that in Washington, there was a murder trial where there was this 10-second video clip from a smartphone which was blurry. So they used AI to recreate that a bit. But because they couldn't validate the authenticity, it got dismissed. But at the same time, there was another case in California, the Tesla case, where Elon Musk was involved. There, despite a video having deep concern-related concerns, they chose to back it with human confirmation. So he was called in, he authenticated it, and they gave emphasis to human accountability. So I think everyone is using it in a slightly different way based on what they think would be the right approach for it. So having said that, there's nothing that can stop us going that way, just with a little bit of caution.
A little bit of caution, and I mean, there's this curiosity among the public and also among the litigants whether, can you really trust the judgment if at all we rely or base the judgment on the evidence of an AI output, right? That's going to be a real concern, wouldn't you think so?
Of course, I think human judgment definitely is irreplaceable, right? No matter, right now, the only thing I guess we cannot compete with AI in is speed. Other than that, the context, the reasoning, the ethics, the values, everything comes from a human process, right? So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Amar, you would like to?
Yeah, I can add. So, see, with regard to evidence as highlighted by Mehak, now how much to rely on AI? Now, the answer is very quite clear. I mean, as per Indian Evidence Act, and now it's Bharatiya scheme Sanhita 2023. So 57 clearly talks about what are primary evidence and what are secondary. So evidence is given by actually a party, and the counsel is only presenting. And in the case of a false evidence, there is a already classification that if false evidence is given, then how much would be the punishment. So if somebody is using AI and then he's fabricating a document, then there's already a punishment for that. So with regard to having a separate law which will regulate the AI in that sense, I think our existing laws already cover that aspect.
Just to add to what everybody has said, globally, everybody is going through a transition phase, and India is no exception. It's very tempting to use Gen AI and artificial intelligence when you are producing some judgments or citations, or you are writing judgments. That's very tempting. It's very helpful. It definitely saves a lot of time. People are finding it much, much easier, cost effective. But is it going to substitute the human intervention? is it going to substitute the human intelligence? The answer is a big no. And that is where the word of caution is there, that do not go beyond what is required. Just use artificial intelligence intelligently. Don't go beyond a point. And that's what the Indian courts are taking the position today. There are a number of judgments which have come where the courts have used artificial intelligence and GenAI, but they have cautioned that don't be over dependent on that. Kerala High Court has just come, and that's a news which is yesterday's news. They have come up with a guidelines on the usage of artificial intelligence. That's a Kerala High Court, the first of its kind in India. Kerala High Court has come yesterday, and they said that these are the guidelines which should be adopted while using artificial intelligence in legal proceedings. So we are moving ahead. We hope that there will be something which will come up from METI so that there is a centralized guidelines or a regulation. Before the regulation comes, at least the guidelines are there. Or maybe the Supreme Court may devise something on that.
Yeah, having said that, the intervention of AI tools while providing judgment shouldn't be there is what we feel, right? As lawyers, I think that should be the right approach. We always need to consider AI as an assistant tool rather than, considering it to be the decision maker. It's always the humans or the judges who should be the decision makers. Of course, you can bring in the tools in terms of operations, right? Having a tool to reduce your backlogs, having your tool, a translation tool which can help the judges in delivering judgments, right? You can have AI tools, act as a beneficiary to you in terms of, in the operations and not just get into the, judgmental aspect of it. Having said that, my next question is to Avdhesh. What is the impact of AI in legal practice today? Like, be it litigation or be it contract management, like we discussed on the regulatory compliance. What's the impact of AI on all of these, basically, especially for legal professionals?
Yeah, prima facie, it seems like AI is making a lot of, since AI, the word is making a lot of buzz, people believe that now it has penetrated into the legal side, it is also making a lot of change. But on the other side, I have a slightly different view. Now, as to bifurcate into three buckets. One is the client giving you the facts, giving you the story, what has transpired so far, what was the contract, what was the correspondence, and how it happened. On that aspect, I think client may be using the AI just to prepare a summary. Beyond that, I don't see there's much intervention of AI giving facts to the counsel. Now, let's come to the counsel part. He has to make the draft, and he has to go and impress to the bench and make the argument. Now, on that aspect, being a counsel, we do use the other tools, I have no idea whether they are using AI or not, but they're tools wherein we can help reduce our effort in preparing a draft. And apart from that, I would also highlight, apart from the AI, in 23, e-filing has come, wherein it has made the life of a counsel so simple that on the AI, I can say if the impact is 10%, then this e-filing has made an impact of around 80-60%. A lot of effort has been reduced through that. And coming to the portion that the counsel has not draft a case. On drafting, yes, of course, these tools are reducing the effort of a counsel. But at end of the day, he has to be answerable to the court if he's citing the wrong citations. Then he can use those tools to draft a primary, preliminary draft, and then he has to go again and see whether everything prepared by the AI is correct or not, because tomorrow his reputation is at stake. And finally, now coming to the judiciary part. Now I have a slightly different view what has been expressed so far. What I see in the court, that almost 20% of the time being wasted by the, not wasted, being utilized by a judge pronouncing a short order in the court itself. Now, I think that sort of time can be reduced if they have the standard, maybe something developed by AI, and then he can just have a look and then sign that order. So that way, some time can, and at times, the judgment runs into 100 pages, and you just assume somebody's typically writing that judgment. It'll take him a lot of time. So courts, by large, they shut at 4 o'clock, but then they have to prepare these judgment and all that. So AI can help reduce those efforts, but end of the day, whosoever is preparing that draft or maybe preparing that judgment is answerable to whomsoever they have the structure. So on that aspect, at least till now, I don't see that AI is making much change, though it is, in a way, is the shortening the effort of everybody as to compile, document, or maybe to summarize and to prepare a draft. But beyond that, I don't think that is making too much changes. And with regard to, no, yeah, that's what my answer.
Thank you. So basically, AI is not, I mean, when we think about AI, it's the tool piece which comes into our mind, right? So rather, it should be more about trust, transparency, and accountability. And I think that's where the lawmakers are also looking into, from a regulatory standpoint as well, right? Having said that to you, Raunak, how are organizations, seeing artificial intelligence, especially to detect fraud and, corruption, which basically these traditional compliance tools kind of miss out on?
So from this perspective, before going to understand how the organizations are using these tools to predict the fraud or to ensure the compliances with the help of AI, we have to just have a basic understanding around what we are expecting from the AI to do. Since we have a traditional tools from a decade. It's in the we are using it in our systems, whether in the form of some alerts kind of thing. But the main thing, the difference which happened in last, you can say 5 to 10 years, is like the patterns. For example, the gap which is being missed by the humans or by the our traditional tools is now we are seeing that has been observed or tapped in by the AI-based tool method. So if I say in a nutshell, the AI is taking the proactive approach rather than a approach in which just a predicting in non-compliance. So, for example, the approach which we have seen in the we are seeing in the day-to-day life, like example, the banks which we are using to predict the fraud in advance. For example, if you do any big transaction or unusual transaction activity in your account, it automatically hits an automated call to you. It's a very basic example which says that it's a proactive approach through which to frauds have been detected. And as per the latest last annual report issued by the ICICI Bank, they said that with this help of these tools and these methods, they are able to reduce more than 30% of the frauds which are happening in the country. So this is one of the ways. And the loopholes, earlier the tools were in the loopholes, the peoples have developed all the loopholes around it. For example, maybe in the traditional system of the compliances we have seen, there are limits in the financial system, there are limits. For example, if you have a 1 lakh limit, you don't need any approval to it. So usually the fraudster have developed a mechanism around it. They will not go after the 1 lakh rupees limit for the approval so that they can manage all the things below that. So AI helps in the observing all those things also, and many of the companies are doing that, especially in the case of procurements. The organization which do the major procurements also observing those kind of patterns to analyze that. So these are the among things, and the most relevant example which we see in the day-to-day life in the media also is leading to GST things. So in the Indian legislation, what they happen, fraud of around 5,000 crores that has been detected, in which AI has played a very important role, since few shell companies are being claiming the input tax credit by not having actually operations or actual invoicing around it. So if at all they have claimed for it, the automated system has tried to check for the claim, and later on it will discover that all those companies have been shell companies. On the same lines, in the last week, we have seen that the income tax is also coming up with these tools, and they are saying that we will be able, with the help of, technology, whatever type of tool they are using it, now they will be tapping to the, all the claims which were earlier not been verified. For example, from the banks, from the institutions, all those things. So I think these are the few ways in which, industry is using the tools, and maybe in some another models also in the ways to come in the multi-AI models they will be using into day-to-day activities to reduce the fraud or to ensure the compliance around it.
Yeah, just to add to what Raunak has intimated. So with regard to compliances, yes, lot of means almost every company is using a compliance tool. But the bad part is that it highlight everything as important, but the one who has to execute, he feels, boss, now there 10 alerts has come through a AI tool. What should I do? So he start ignoring. Until unless the AI makes a classification that which all to highlight and what should be the gravity of highlighting, until unless these things are triggered into that tool, I think it will not.
So it's again up to the humans to train these tools to suit your requirements, right? So where do you want the trigger to come in? What do you think is of, right, what do you think is probably high risk in terms of non-compliance that needs to be triggered? I mean, when we say AI, the dependency on AI is also because we are the ones who are training the AIs, right? So that, I think that should not be forgotten. We are training the AI to suit our requirements. So train to this, to that extent that you get the desired value out of it, right?
Absolutely right, and it also changing the shift. Earlier, whatever approach is to have, detect the fraud and then punish. Now the approach is little bit different. If with the help of the AI, which organization, it's predict the fraud and protect that. That's the same approach with the banks and other institutions are doing.
So, coming a little away from frauds, in US, they've started using AI for analyzing your sentencing and for crimes, etc. And they came up with data that the AI was also more biased towards black defendants. Now the statement that they made was the AI was more biased, but it's not the AI that's biased, it's the data that is biased. So it's going to mirror the systematic bias, right? So the same thing, garbage in, garbage out. So even in terms of compliance or fraud, it is what you tell it to detect, right? Yeah.
So a certain amount of human intervention is still
Yeah.
required when you're training these models to understand where you need to have these trigger. Like as you said in this example, it's a very good classic example because that shows probably that's how, and in these patterns, the sentences were kind of delivered for these kind of offenses. So probably the AI picks it up and that's how the AI reads it. So it's all about the behavioral patterns and how it is being processed within these models, right? That said, I have one big question to this entire group in terms of what's next in AI. What do you foresee anything next coming up in terms of AI? Is there any more further development which we're all seeing in terms of legal as an industry? Are we ahead of AI, or are we together with AI? And
Yeah, so purely from a legal profession point of view, next 5 years, I see a lot of litigations and legal issues cropping up on the AI side. We have already witnessing how the copyrighted contents which are being used by these LLMs, large modules, language modules, is being questioned by a number of organizations. Both in India, there's a big case which is going on before Delhi High Court on OpenAI versus ANI. And that judgment is eagerly awaited. There will be a lot of issues which will be clarified. So I foresee a lot of issues coming up on the uses of artificial intelligence and leading to lot of parameters which will be decided. In the same breath, I would also like to point out that while the courts will be burdened on issues relating to artificial intelligence, the larger question that comes up is our judiciary ready to adjudicate upon these issues? Are the judges competent? Are the judges trained to understand the technicalities of these artificial intelligence? And that is where there is a lot of work to be done in training these judges to understand how the world is shaping, how the artificial intelligence is developing, what are the technical side of it, and then only they will be able to pronounce a reasoned speaking order.
very well said. It's not just in the litigation, right? So in the litigation, of course, as you said, the judges need to kind of understand how the tool performs, like how the AI needs to operate in terms of be able to provide judgments, right? Likewise, in the corporate sector also, for lawyers, it's become equally important that you understand the technology first. You understand how the technology functions and operates for you to be able to advise from a regulatory compliance standpoint. So now the capabilities of a legal professional has kind of increased from not just being a lawyer. You also need to update yourself and upskill yourself in terms of understanding how the present technology work so that you're able to advise from a regulatory standpoint, apart from understanding, of course, the industry compliances and the local law compliances. I think somebody from the audience has a question to us.
My question to Mr. Sundram. What type of litigation you are expecting that will arise out of this AI? And how the judges will be not in a position to decide? What lacking with the judges? What you expect?
So two, three things. One is the biggest challenge that the usage of artificial intelligence will pose to the courts and the judiciary is the accountability. So who is to be held accountable in case of a lapse? Is it? I'll answer that. So I'll give you a very raw example. For example, uh, as the world is developing, gradually we will be having a driverless car, right? Now assume that a driverless car meets with an accident and somebody dies, right? Now the question that will come up before the court is, who is going to be held accountable? Is our Motor Vehicle Act provides a remedy. So one could be the developer, the software developer. The other will be the owner of the car. The third one could be, just a second, hear me out. Sir, you have asked a question, you have to hear me out.
This is not the question, this question will not arise.
Okay. So please, let's hear your views. Who?
When I say with authority, this question will not arise. Whoever commit, he is responsible. Why judge will be not in a position to decide?
Yeah. So let's see how it develops. We are.
Not the question, this is somebody is using. This is a clear cut.
That's your view. That's one view.
Somebody is using this artificial intelligence, then the number of cases will unnecessarily develop. This is not the question.
So that's one view. Let's see how it develops. We'll have to see how the issue crops up. There will be a lot of issues around the data privacy issue. So when you are using Gen AI, there are a lot of language modules. There are a lot of data which are fed into LLM. The possibility of these data getting leaked is not ruled out. And therefore, even if you see the draft DPDP Act, which is yet to come into operation, there will be a lot of issues around data leakages. In my opinion, you may have a different view. In my opinion, there will be a lot of issues which the courts will be forced to look into it. This Delhi High Court, if you look into this OpenAI case which is going on in the Delhi High Court, the major issue, they have flagged off 4 issues in that court. And those are 4 major issues. The world is grappling with that. One of the issues they said that the storage of the copyrighted material, which is being used in Chat GPT, is it violative of Copyright Act? Now that's a huge issue to be dealt with. It will have a huge repercussions. What these publishing house, they are all saying is that my copyrighted material cannot be used by Gen AI. Right? Because these are my copyrighted material. If you are using it, you pay. You take license from me. So they are using this data for their own revenue. They are saying that we are not being compensated for the uses of these copyrighted. Now, these are issues which will come up. Copyrighted issue in the AI segment, in my opinion, is going to be a big issue.
It is not only AI. If I steal somebody's writing and using it, then also this question of copyright arises.
You are right.
It is whoever uses and whoever is able to prove that my writing has been used. It is not that only due to AI this problem has developed.
Correct.
Yeah, and just to add on, I know where Ajit sir is coming, and he's a very celebrated lawyer, and I share his understanding. Even I, in a way, suggested that, see, ultimate responsibility is whosoever is using the AI. Let's say I'm a counsel, I cite 10 wrong judgments. Then I am answerable to the court that I have cited incorrect facts. If the client has given me incorrect information using the AI, he's responsible for giving a false fabricated document. So they, so in a way, what he is suggesting that they cannot be questioned that somebody is using AI and there's nobody who is responsible. This cannot be a fact. To which I agree, and somewhat what Amar is saying is also correct in a way. Let's talk about a driving case. Now, in the present scenario, if somebody is driving and he has done some accident, the driver is criminally responsible, but for the civil responsibility, for the monetary responsibilities of the owner. Now, in a case where there is no driver, who is criminally liable? That's also a question that might trigger at a later time when the courts allow. At this juncture, Indian government has not allowed driverless vehicles to operate. Yeah.
So, just to understand what your original question was that why do you think that judges are not capable of hand? So just to rephrase what everyone else was saying, I don't think it's about being incapable, it's about upgrading yourself. I think today, upskilling yourself, upgrading yourself, today I'm not capable of using AI the way it's meant to be used. So I think everyone needs to do that. Mediation is a new concept. I think all of us need to unlearn how we lawyer and then learn how to mediate. So it's only about upskilling. Everyone can be capable. It's just about unlearning and then relearning. Absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly, that's upskilling. And it's also about it, I mean, user is one perspective, probably user should always be held liable. But the other fact is that the one who's developing the tool, to what extent is he, you know, kind of liable or accountable to this whole situation? Or the one who's kind of deploying this, knowingly that this is how the tool works, or this is how AI functions, is to be held accountable, or the complete responsibility lies on the user. So that's actually the debatable topic, you know, what I understand right now happening in the legal profession.
Will be not responsible if somebody uses, they are using it at their risk and cost. They can't be held responsible because they have created this program and some accident happens. So because they are not charging for providing that service. If they are providing, if they are charging fees for using this, then naturally, as the owner or the driver are responsible under motor vehicle act, they will be also held responsible if they are charging money for providing this facility. This is not disputable. This is clear law.
You want to
So
say something?
absolutely right, sir. You know, even I would like to share some practical experience which we have faced recently. We are having a licensed AI-based model from some of the vendors, and that models generates in photographs for the marketing and all those purposes. So the discussion around the contract negotiation is going on, whether if that tool generates a photograph of Amitabh Bachchan, then who should be responsible? So, you know, likewise the discussion I am having, if at all Amitabh Bachchan came to me some days and tell me, boss, why you have used my picture? I will say I have generated this from your tool because your tools I have purchased from Mr. X, and this the function of this tool is only to generate the generates the picture. So I have given the command. Then the counterparty or the vendor which have
In AI, you have to use your brain also. They will give 5, 6 photos. Like when you put my name, the judges' photos will also come because they are associated with me. So my photo is also there. Then your own brain has to be used. Not finally 6 photos and all put Adi Shankar. No.
Absolutely right, sir. Absolutely right. So all these are the, you know, the questions which may arise. For example, I'll say it may be similar to me. Some others say no, it resembles to me. So the ambiguity around these may have a right to question, and who should be responsible. Being the company, I have the license tool. Why should I will be responsible? I would always ask that company who has given me the license tool that why your tool is generating something like that. But the company in the counter will say, you have given that instruction to me. Likewise, you have told, sir. So these all are the things I maybe, you know, that need to be addressed and how we will be taken care of in future if we have a uniform regulation around it.
All said and done, to the point which you made at the beginning, I feel the lawyers who are practicing, basically who are into litigation, would see a lot of business and learnings coming in from the use of AI. With that, I would like to wind up this wonderful session. Thank you so much, panelists and the audience, for being so engaging. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.